since the days are growing shorter and the nights are growing longer, it's fall is almost here, and so we have to get ready and go take the teepee down, for the winds of winter get to sweeping across the desert and tear it up. We'll make the 400-mile trip over to the southeast corner of Oregon, but since we're going there anyway, we just as well make it a fun vacation as well. The teepee has to be taken down because the nearby ranchers run about 2,500 head of cattle on this property during the winter. That way, this is the lower property on the desert, and they don't have to feed hay that way to their cattle. They can just graze off the lower portion of the desert during the winter. And anyway, that many cattle around would sure raise havoc with a teepee. We back out our driveway and head down toward the summit of the Cascades, right where the Cascade Mountains meet the valley. They're growing scads of grapes. There's just acre after acre of grapes, and that's a rather new crop. And these people that grow the grapes, some of them are making their own wine of the grapes. Then we move on and come to the filbert or hazelnut orchards, just mile after mile of them. And that's a rather new crop too, although there has always been some grown in the valley, not nearly the amount we're seeing now. After a few hours, we reach our daughter Annette's vacation home at La Pine. So we'll go in and check that all is well and spend the night. Then the next morning we can roll out of bed early, and this will cut our trip pretty much shorter. The next morning, before the sun reaches the full height in the sky, we're heading out, heading for southeast Oregon. We reach there not too late in the day, and we decide to go down to the Owaihi River at Three Forks and test the water and see if it'll produce one of those nice bass like it usually does. We have a really good paved road that winds us down to the Owaihi River at Rome, and then up the other side across some high desert country and past some of the cliffs of Rome. Then when we get up on top, we take a dirt and gravel road for 35 miles as we rattle our way clear down into the Owaihi Canyon at Three Forks. This was a very historical place. At one time, the old military road went through here, and they carried mail through here on mail wagons for the gold mining and silver mining towns on the other side over into Idaho. We'll go down clear to the bottom at where the Three Forks of the Owaihi River come together. Then there's a good modern bridge that we can cross the Owaihi River, and we're going to cross it and drive up near the hot springs. We cross the bridge and go up over a hill on not too good a road. It's plenty of big rocks you have to dodge, and then we reach the summit. We ford a small creek and head on up over a little hill. It's only about 2 miles, but it's 2 pretty darn rough miles that we have to go to get up where we'll be overlooking the hot springs. We take a look down at the Owaihi River flowing down below us. This is the main fork of the Owaihi River. We can see it through a crack in the rocks as we move on down, and we're not going to drive clear down to the river bank, although we could, but this road scares Marge, and so she wanted just to camp up on top. So we'll get up on top, lay our sleeping bags out, and be ready to catch some fish within a very short period of time. The grass grows tall and straight down next to the river bank, and then we throw our hooks in, and about every cast produced a really nice bass. We'll fish here till we catch our limit of bass. Since it's like the last light in the day, it won't be too long and it'll be dark, but we already have our bedding laid out, and so we're just going to sleep under the stars tonight. It's a beauty of a nice full moon tonight, and it'll just be really nice just to sleep out. Marge is catching a fish about every cast, and they're pretty darn nice bass. They'll make a really good meal for us. And she finally catches her last fish of the day. So now we're going to go up and crawl into our sleeping bags under a full moon. The place where we chose to put our sleeping bags out was about the level of Spot Around, but still it was kind of on a side hill, and we just kept, every time we'd roll over, we'd slide down the hill a little bit. So it wasn't as comfortable a night as it could have been, but it was okay. The next morning, the sun comes up with a vengeance again. Some really great weather. We look across and we can see the hot waterfalls tumbling down the Owaihi Canyon. We'll walk down the little road only a couple hundred yards till we get to the river, and we're going to catch our limit of bass again, and then we're going to go over and test the water in the hot springs. On the way down, there are little sea hot springs coming out and running down the road in numerous places. As we walk down the road, that nice warm water sure feels good on your feet if you just wear a pair of sandals. Looks like Marge has got a rock in her sandal. And we'll soon be at the river and be fishing for bass in next to no time. The grass grows real tall along the banks of the Owaihi River. She throws her hook in and starts catching them instantly, but this time she caught one that was a little too small. We're fishing right next to this roaring waterfall of hot water. She puts on another worm and gives it a try.
My worm's still there.
And the fish are biting again. She's catching really nice ones, just one right after another.
That's a nice bass.
She holds it up for inspection, and wow,
There.
what nice bass, and what a place to fish. You can't beat the scenery here, and even I'm catching a few bass. According to Marge, probably she's the main bass fisherman, but I catch some too once in a while. Now that we've both caught our limit of bass, it's time to go down and test that hot water. We both get in the lower pool, and wow, is it nice. The water's nice and clear with all sorts of bubbles. popping and coming to. This hot springs is really a national jewel. It's a good thing not a lot of people know about it, or it would be so crowded you'd never get in. But the way it is, every time we've been here, we've been totally by ourselves. You can sit in the pool and look to either side and see numerous hot springs coming out of the mountain above and cascading down to the Owaihi River. There's no fewer than about a dozen different springs come out right in this area. So it's a real special place, and there's a potential to build a lot more pools. But now we've got to go. We've got to get out to the teepee and see about it. Dirt road till we get down and ford one of the forks of the Owaihi River. But fortunately it's not a very big one, and this time of year it'll impose no problem to us. Those who are afraid of heights may not enjoy the ride down because you're looking out over the Owaihi Canyon and then across the very small fork of the Owaihi River and on to the bridge and on. We're going to head directly to the cabin. We have a few things that we need to do at the cabin the teepee, before we take it up for winter. So we'll head right across the bridge and up the hill and on over to the teepee. We hadn't been to the teepee yet on this trip, and so I'm really anxious to get back and see if it's still there and see that nothing or no one has done anything to it. So we're heading back to the teepee the first thing when we get back, and then we'll be able to spend the night in some comfort in the teepee, and we've got our camp stove and everything, so we can cook us a really nice mess of these very fresh bass and have us a really good feast. After about 7 miles of a bone-jarring dirt road off the main White Horse Ranch Road down to the teepee, we go around a few corners and keep looking for the teepee ahead, and we haven't spotted it yet, but the Steens Mountains are standing tall in the background. Then we come around a corner, and there it is, the teepee, and from here it looks like it's stood the elements really well. It's still standing and looks like it's in good shape. So we'll hurry up and go in and see if there's been any critters inside that might have done some harm. There are a few mice out here and lots of kangaroo rats and lots of badgers and coyotes around, but I don't think any of them would do any harm. Maybe one of the little mice might do something. So we hurry up, pull in the little parking area where we've cleared the sagebrush so it won't be catching on fire, and go in the teepee and see that all is well. We had the smoke flaps closed, but we'll open them up where we can get a good view of the moon and stars and cool it off a little in there as the sun sinks in the distant horizon back behind the Steens Mountains. The Steens Mountains are pretty much completely gone. The snow is pretty much completely gone off the Steens Mountains, but they still look good in the background. It's been one of those super dry years out here. I opened the smoke flaps on the teepee and we spent the night after we cooked some brass. But then we remembered we have a new map that a friend of Marge's gave us on where there's some petrified wood down by McDermott, Nevada. So we're going down and take a look and see what we can find. They're wanting to make this into a national park or a national monument. So you see these signs all over the place, no monument. Then we noticed some holes in the side of the mountain, and so we're going to stop here. I'll take my shovel and go over there and just see what's in there. I'll remove a little of loose dirt that's on top and get down into where there should be some wood. There's at least about 4 foot of overburden, just sort of like topsoil over the top of the petrified wood right in this area. There's some areas where you don't have to dig that deep, but this is kind of our favorite spot, and we do very well here. So who minds moving a little bit of dirt when you're going to find such excellent, super excellent quality petrified wood? I dig on for an hour or so, removing some serious hunting for petrified wood. Quite a bit of dirt off the top of where I think the wood will be. I hear that telltale ring that means I've hit a super hard piece of petrified wood. Then I start digging very carefully all around it to remove the dirt so I can wiggle it a little bit and pull it out. There's at least 4 foot of overburden over the top of it. But there comes my piece of really nice petrified wood. It's got good grain in it and looks good, and it isn't broke at all. This is gem quality wood, which would make good jewelry or whatever. Then I just continue digging, finding piece after piece of it coming out. This one has a real black agate looking stuff inside it with real nice wood grain. You can clean it off a little bit and see your prize, and what a nice prize. Then I reach my shovel back in there, here another ring, and there comes another nice big piece out. Piece after piece the mountain is surrendering to us as we dig on.
Oh, there's another one, I believe. Yep.
Another one, huh?
Oh, here's a small chunk.
I use my shovel, but the bar comes in handy too to dig out little pieces of it. If it were a little smaller bar, it might be handier to use, but that one works. And I found another piece, so I'll very carefully dig around it and wiggle it a little to get it out of the clutches of the earth. Have to be real careful. I've dug kind of under some overhangs, so I have to be really careful that it doesn't cave in on me. Then I see that it looks like a really nice piece. I'll move a little bit of the harder stuff with the bar and then go back to the shovel and dig a little bit by hand. And there it comes. It's wiggling and pops right out.
The shovel's in the way.
There really isn't anything there, I don't think.
What's that down there in the hole? Right there.
Yeah, that's a nice piece, see?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a nice chunk. That's a big chunk.
Yeah.
There, it's coming out.
Is it dropping?
Yep, it just dropped out. Here. Yeah, that's a nice one.
We bring time after time a nice piece of wood comes out of the hole. Some of this stuff. It'll be good to make jewelry out of and also for specimens.
It'd be a booger to get out. It's not ready to come out, huh?
It's almost. Yeah, I believe it might come now.
Oh, wow! Look at that one. That one's a monster. Oh, my goodness. You hit the jackpot with that one. How long is it?
Well, it's got to be a foot, isn't
Almost
it?
a foot long? Hold it up.
Oh,
Gee.
there's another one.
Now that was worth coming back for. That is a prize.
There. Does it weigh 10 pounds?
Nah.
Scale with us when we go petrified wood hunting, so we weighed that big one and it weighed 8 pounds, so that was a pretty nice piece. And this is super good quality stuff, known worldwide as the McDermott wood. Well, by this time we're getting close to our limit and the sun's sinking low on the horizon, so we've got to head back to the teepee, and we've still got a little bit of fun that needs to be had around. One thing I've got to do is clean all these bass, that is fillet them, so we can start eating them and get them packed good in some good cold ice, so we can have some for a meal right away and then have some to take along with us to eat later. And they keep really well in ice. In front of the teepee I start in on the bass, and it'll only take about an hour or so to do it. And then Marge has a plan for me. Her plan is to go sunstone hunting again. The bass filleting went real fast, and I'll bet the old badger'll sure be glad to find some of those carcasses when we leave, as well as the coyotes. We head out to the Sunstone area, park, and just step out of the car. Any place you step out and look at the ground, the little sparkly things there are the sunstones, and they're Oregon State gemstone, also known as the Oregon diamond, and they are found in a few other states, but some will tell you they're only found in Oregon. But whatever, they're very, very nice, and Marge really likes to hunt for them. We have a place where we send them overseas to get them faceted into little diamonds, and they're very nice that way. So she's looking for some nice large ones, and in sunstone color is everything. So we're even finding some with a little bit of color on them. After the sunstones, we've both acquired a good coat of good Oregon dust all over us. So we'll go over to the hot springs and wash some off. Then we'll go back to the teepee, and Marge's once again showing off our big piece of McDermott petrified wood, which we'll take home and use for a specimen. Some of the smaller chunks we can use to make jewelry out of. They make excellent cabochons. And then we'll clean our sunstones up and put them in a container and start gathering up a little bit of stuff, because we've got to think about starting home pretty soon. After we look at the sunstones and our petrified wood once more, we realize that we haven't even been out to Coyote Lake, and we haven't gone up and checked on the badger hole, which is right above the teepee. So the first thing I'm going to do while Marge is getting ready to go out to Coyote Lake, I'm going up and see what the badger's up to. It looks like he's enlarged his den a little bit, and I have an idea that he raised a bunch of young in this den right above the teepee. I look down and see the teepee just a very short distance below. And then out a bit farther, we see wild horse tracks all over the place. And they're just real fresh. They've been here real recently. And there's another badger den out there. So we'll get in the pickup and we'll drive the very short distance out on Coyote Lake just to see how things are doing out there. We go over the top of the foredune and we're out on this dry lake bed Playa, where there's absolutely hundreds of acres of, it's so just as smooth as Safeway's parking lot, and you can drive on it too. In Oregon, most all the playas were at one time highways, so they kept it so you can drive on them. We don't drive real fast on the Playa, but you could, and we're thinking about bringing our land sailor out here and trying it someday, so maybe in the future we'll do that. But this year it seems like it took us so long to get the teepee up and get everything situated that we just didn't have the time for that, along with something called work. There are even some of the mysterious moving rocks out on this playa, and they're the rocks that the wind moves when the playa's wet, and they slide around and leave trails on them similar to Death Valley's racetrack. Well, after looking the playa over, we go back across the dune and back out to the teepee, and now we've got to settle down and get to work and get that teepee taken down so we can head home. We've got to pack things very carefully in the car. And then we look ahead. We saw something running, and we look ahead. Right in front of us is one of the Majestic Stallions, wild stallions of the desert. And I don't know how far back his bloodline goes. They've changed a little bit since they became wild. They're feral horses. But the Spanish originally put them down in Florida, turned some loose, and they spread all over, even into Canada. So I don't know how much of this is original. And then the ranchers out in the desert areas used to use the desert for their brood mares, and they'd even buy good stallions and put in with the wild horses, so they'd get good horses, and then they could go rope them and make them a nice saddle horse. Well, we're getting started on the teepee. We're unloading some of the thing out of the teepee and loading them into the pickup, packing them very carefully. So in a little bit, I'll be able to start taking the teepee down. There's a good brisk breeze blowing, but that shouldn't affect us too much. I just hope it doesn't blow the teepee over once I get these pegs out. I just take a shovel, dig down a little bit around the peg, and pry up on it, and they come out of this sand pretty darn easy. After I get the pegs up, I unlace the teepee cover. We've already taken the interior out of it, the interior lining, and then I just unlace the teepee, and it's all attached to a lift pole, so I can just pull that lift pole out and the whole teepee cover should come down real easily. It took us like 3 days to get it up, and I think we can get it down in less than an hour, much less than an hour, because there's not much to putting it down. And now that I know how, I can put it up a whole lot faster next time. It should only take 2 or 3 hours to get it up. The wind is even going to help a little bit pulling it down. I just swing it out and bring it down on the ground, and then I'll untie the cover from the lift pole and we'll fold it up, and then I take the end of the rope and go around and around. There are 4 wraps of rope around the teepee poles up on top, so I have to go out and unroll it 4 times. You have to walk around the teepee 4 times pulling the rope, and it's not really enough to make you dizzy, so it went pretty well. I lay the cover down on the ground, and then we'll fold it as neat as we possibly can. And it looks like it hasn't hurt the teepee one bit, having it up most all summer. Next year we're hoping to get it up earlier, and I'm hoping to get my grandsons in gear and get some fencing done around here, so that when they have the cattle in here, they won't be pestering around. They run about 2,500 head of cattle from the White Horse Ranch across here, and unless you got it fenced, they would be all over it. And so we don't dare leave it up with those darn cattle around. Well, we're getting it rolled up pretty easily now, and so then we'll just make a small bundle out of it, load it in the back of the pickup, and head for home.